Today I've got something really special for you guys. This is the first episode of a brand new show I've been working on with 2OP, Nerf OG, and The Count. It's called the Apex Hour, and it's a live show that focuses partially on Apex Legends, but also partially on gaming as a whole. All of the games we're currently playing, the games we're excited for, and big news happening in the gaming industry. It airs every single Thursday over on Twitch, live at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I've got a link for that Twitch down in the description below. I've also got links to both The Count and 2OP streams if you like positive folks with positive chats who just love games and love hanging out and playing them and talking about them. Please do me a favor, go give my two co-hosts a follow, check out what they're doing, and maybe hang around their chat. You just might find another pleasant place to hang out and talk video games. Now, this was our very first episode. We've got a format sort of dialed in for it, but we would love to hear your feedback. If there's anything you really love about the show or anything you really don't love about the show, please feel free to throw your thoughts down in the comments section below. Once again, the show goes live on Twitch every Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but you can also catch it every single Friday right here on my YouTube channel, where I will essentially be playing the post version of it for all of you who'd rather watch it here. You can also catch the VOD, which will always be available over on Twitch as soon as the stream wraps up on Thursday nights. That's going to do it for me. Enjoy this hour, the very first hour of the Apex Hour, and we will see you in the next one. How's everybody doing? I totally didn't think of a really smooth way to say that intro, but welcome to the very first episode of the Apex Hour, which is a show about Apex Legends and other general gaming goodness. I'm joined by my two fantastic co-hosts, 2OP, Nerf OG, and the one and only Count.
Hi. What's up? What's up, everybody?
How's everybody doing today? How's everybody in chat doing? Guys, we're not going to be like fielding questions from chat obsessively, but if you like pop something in chat that adds to the conversation or that we feel is worth discussing, that is going to add to whatever it is we're talking about, we'll definitely do that. Otherwise, we're just gonna get on with the show because there's a lot to talk about, and we'd like to actually try and keep it at an hour, hence the name, the Apex Hour, but that probably won't happen because it never works out that way. And for today's topics, we're going to be talking about the general state of Apex after the Battle Pass, doing like our own personal little review of the Battle Pass, talking about Octane, and then also talking a little bit more on Season 1 predictions, because we still do have about 2 months for Season 1, and I think there's all of us have things we want to see, obviously things that have already kind of been teased, like the L-Star, and then we're going to talk a little bit about what we've been playing. So, yeah, where do we start, guys? I guess, like, OP, I'd like to ask you a little bit about the Battle Pass, because you've gotten, I think you're like probably you're one of the first people I know who's made it to 100. Who's made it to max.
Yes, I've capped it off.
So like, how does it feel worth? And what was the grind like? Did it really feel like it was unnecessary? How do you feel about that in general?
So the initial grind of making it to 110 was satisfying. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I feel like the bonus XP was a good idea. That got me to switch up my characters often, and now I'm at the point where, like, as I'm playing like post Battle Pass, I'm still enjoying switching it up and messing with different characters. So that helped me a lot.
Did you think getting to 100 would be as quickly as you did? I know we chatted a little bit about, like, hey, do we buy that starter pack? Do you start at 25? Do you start at level 1? Did you expect to make it that fast?
No, not at all. I think I made it too fast personally, but yeah, I feel like the progression, they could make it maybe a little bit slower, but overall it was a fun short grind.
Tony, did you jump in on the booster pack? I don't even know what they were calling that, but did you where did you start on your back?
No, I didn't end up doing that, and I think I'm at the point, like, I don't know. There was a point when, like, the pass first came out that I was playing a lot, like, and like before Derek went on vacation, I was playing a bunch with him, so I kind of felt like, okay, I might actually make it there on, like, Xbox, like, in a normal amount of time. But now I think even if I bought the booster and got, like, the 25 levels, unless I, like, start grinding, like, a lot in the next couple months, I might not make it. I really want the Havoc skin, and that's the only thing that I guess is, like, going to push me into the realm of, like, buying that booster, is if I actually am close, where I'm like, okay, it's worth it just because I really want the Havoc weapon variant, like, real bad.
It looks incredible. It looks, oh man, both variants of it incredible.
Just the whole idea of like the evolving weapon skin, like that's totally what we need more of. That's super
And it
cool.
howls.
It howls.
Like
Yeah,
it like howls when you.
It's like I just got like a very basic idea of how it's supposed to function.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to see a lot more of that in the next battle pass. A lot more like reactive stuff. Definitely some more character skins. Maybe like legendary tier character skins too.
Do you have any idea how many hours you played roughly though, OP, like to get from like when the battle pass started to get to cap?
Okay, so it came out. I finished it, and the total or like days left was like 76. So that was like 14 days, and I mean, give or take, a stream is like 6 hours, maybe a few hours outside of streaming too. So I'd say 100 hours or so, something like that.
100 hours. So like if you got 90 days, 100 hours, that's like, yeah, it just still seems like a lot, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's always so hard with this because you're always gonna have the people who are gonna like, you know, have the playtime, whether they're streamer or they just play a lot, you know, and for them it's gonna be like you said, like, I mean, you got through it. There's still like a month and a half left of season 1.
Yes.
It's like, yeah, and 1 level per hour isn't like terrible, I guess, but yeah, I mean, I guess everybody's gonna have their own personal thoughts on like how worth it is, and then just how long it should go on for. I think I wouldn't care. I feel like it would be a really good amount of time, like that time frame, if, and Seagrave just mentioned this, if we also got Apex packs like for more levels when leveling. I still think
100%.
It's absurd that we're getting Apex. How does it even, how many levels, like when do you get Apex packs? Like what level is it at this point? Does like anybody know like actually when you get them? Is it every other level?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's my biggest gripe, man. Is like, you know, you've got a set list of things you're unlocking in the battle pass, but when that grind comes and you hit level 100 and like the packs just stop for all intents and purposes, I think that's like the worst thing. I can't even remember when I've opened just a generic loot tick, and like I think that was the thing that kind of kept you going a little bit. Is like, you know, you get that feeling and you pop that legendary skin, and you know it's on a character that you love to play, but the battle pass just doesn't quite give you that same feeling. You know what I mean? You guys agree with that?
Yeah, I mean 100%. There's like, it's basically non-existent to me, is like something I pay attention to. Like I just don't even care. Like the only reason I care about it is because of the final, like the finished product is getting the Havoc skin. Otherwise, the battle pass to me is like not something I concern myself with at all. And that's, I guess that's a problem with the packs in general right now. Like if it was guaranteed every other level that I got a pack, I still don't think it would be enough, because I don't think they're taking into consideration that there's so many little things you can earn. All of the stat trackers, all of the call outs. Like, even if I was getting a battle pack every single level, that's 100 packs. That's not even, you know, and I'm talking outside of the battle pass. That's just not that many, you know, considering how many things there are to
unlock. I was listening to that Drew McCoy, you know, interview he did on Wire. I think he said something, there's like 1,900 items, because I think one of the questions he fielded was like, you know, how many packs do I need to open to get everything in the game? And he was like, yeah, we're constantly adding new stuff, but there's something roughly 1,900 items between everything. It's like, that's a lot of packs. It seems weird to completely shut that off, even when you hit cap. I mean, maybe they would do something like, you know, they obviously are trying to entice you to spend a little bit of money on the game if you keep enjoying it. And even if they maybe slowed down the rate, that's like every couple levels, but it would be nice to keep, you know, still give you something to keep moving towards once you hit the max level.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make any sense that you don't just like do XP, you know, at that point. Like you don't just earn like XP like you would. You don't actually level, but you're leveling. And that's the point where I've seen a lot of people point out like they should just remove the level cap entirely and just like have you keep leveling and keep earning packs. And I'm just like, yeah, it doesn't really make sense to have a level cap in this sort of a game where you need people to be like progressing and earning things for them to feel like they're just getting at least a little bit out of their time. And again, when you have that many items, so if there's 1,900 items, and even if you, let's say you got a pack for every level, not including the battle pass, just outside of the battle pass, your 100 levels, you got a pack for every level. What's 3 items in a pack, and sometimes you're not even getting an item, you're going to get scrap. So
the crafting material.
Even if we're being generous, you know, that's 300 items if you had a pack for every single level, and you don't even get close to that. And then 1,900 items, plus they're adding stuff all the time with like the seasons. It makes literally no sense. It's like the most illogical thing they're doing with cosmetic progression in the game right now, in my opinion.
And I think a lot of people in our communities, especially, right? A lot of people are playing this game. I mean, for the most part, a lot of my friends are already hitting that cap or have already hit it for a couple weeks now. So I think, I see some people starting to slowly dip off a little bit just because, you're missing some of that. It felt good to rank up and get something meaningful for it. And for those people that maybe didn't invest in the battle pass just yet, your progression is kind of halted entirely.
We're all gamers. It's that reward center of the brain, man. Like you got to have that stimulated by progression, leveling up. It just feels good. When it's gone, it gets stale.
Yeah, and then even as a casual player, you're just not earning anything when you are playing. Like, somebody who barely plays is like getting nothing because they're not getting packs per level. And so they're not even going to see like the end result of like, oh, I got that Havoc at the very end of the battle pass at least. And that's where I think in general you run into a problem with like loot crate stuff, but I think like the battle pass system in this case is actually worse than, let's say, the Overwatch system, because I think at least with the Overwatch system, number one, you get a pack every single time you level up. And when the holiday season comes around, there's then like an incentive to just buy the packs, the boxes to try and get the new skins. But when you're just doing everything through a battle pass as the season, and then it's tied into you having to make your way through the battle pass to get that item, they're not driving any sales of like the packs that way. Like no one's going to buy a bunch of packs.
Yep.
Because they know they can't get the Havoc out of the packs anyway. They have to grind at level 100. So they're relying on people to buy the booster, which they can only buy once. I think it's just a bunch of weird monetization stuff that doesn't give anybody a clear-cut way, even when they do pay to the items that they want, which to me is a problem. Like you've got a lot of options, but none of those options actually like get you what you want. It's just another step towards what you want.
Right. What do you think about the individual items in the battle pass? Is there anything, I know we talked a little bit about the Havoc, that skin is pretty awesome. It's something new. It's unique, right? It's the only way to acquire it. What do you think about just like the generic things that are coming in, right? Levels 1 through 100. How do you feel about, right? Let's say, for example, level 64, you're getting a skin on your P2020. How do you think about like how they're laid out per the different tiers?
I think it's bad. I think the problem is I think it sucks, but it's also not fair to compare it to a game like Fortnite, because Fortnite's battle pass sucked when it started, and now Fortnite has a team, and I know the three of us have talked about this in the past. Fortnite has a team that is like as big as the Riot's cosmetic team. They literally have a group of people who do nothing but make cosmetics all day long, and like and turn them into like all the crazy stuff that they get with every single one of their like battle passes and seasons and stuff like that. So I never expected that for their first pass, but it's like somebody somewhere, if they want to keep pushing this big, we're big crazy AAA battle royale experience, someone like in the financial sector needs to like throw the money in at some point and say, okay, well, we're going to hire a bunch of artists just to make stuff, because if the second season is as weak as this season is, that's not going to be a good thing.
Totally agree. What I would love to see is them doing something that's a little bit more universal, right? One of the things I really enjoy about Fortnite's battle pass is, right, there's like, if there's that dance or that emote that you're working towards, you unlock that and you can use that right all the time. The main gripe I have is like a lot of these things are confined to one weapon, right? So if you love using the 301 and you really like that skin, and you got to wait until a certain tier before you get that, you might have unlocked that skin or something for 6 weapons, none of which you enjoy picking up. And then even the same goes a little bit, for the Havoc. Havoc's not my favorite gun. I really want the skin, but like Havoc's not quite my go-to gun. I'd love to see some of these rewards be a little bit more universal, where like once you unlock it, you can apply it freely. I don't really know how they might do that just now, because you do play in first person, but I would love to just see something that's a little bit more, hey, once you unlock it, apply it to whatever gun you want, something like that.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, it feels like the Overwatch problem, where every single time there's a holiday event, people get pissed that like only these 3 champions got skins, and then this one didn't even get a legendary skin. Like that's always going to be an issue. But I guess the problem that I had is just like, even among like what we've already seen them do with their skin stuff, the like diversity was really lacking. Like we had a bunch of low tier skins that were just basic camos. We didn't even see any animated ones. Like just, like we have the fire and the electricity. Why weren't there more animated ones? That's something that I feel like could have filled that roster a bit better and made people feel less upset about there like only being a really cool Havoc skin, because at least if you would have gotten like a Hemlock skin that was an animated, you know, whatever, purple, yeah, I mean, that would have been cool, you know? So I feel like if they can just start to work in like a handful of the weapons each and every season, like, okay, we did 4 of them this time. 1 was a legendary, 2 were, you know, purples, or 3 were purples, and then we did a bunch of like regular basic camos. I just think there needs to be a bigger pool of variety in the rarities that they do.
Because if you think about, like, you know, if your level 100 item is you know, one of these epic, or I don't even know how they're defining what that skin is. It's going to take you like 4 years of playing this game by the time you get you know, really good skins on all of your guns. So I'm hoping, yeah, that stuff gets layered in a little bit more. I think it would keep people grinding a little bit more and not just having one major reward at the end. You know, I don't know. The pace just seems like it needs to pick up for like valuable skins like that, because 100 is still even no joke. I don't think a lot of people might even.
Yeah, Candles makes a good point. You know, he, like, talking about Riot and the League stuff, where just all of their skins are like money only. You know, you can't like earn them passively over time, and that's where I think there's a big issue with the way that they, like we were kind of talking about, just in general. I don't like the way they do their battle pass, because there's like a bunch of options, but again, none of them like really give people what they want. To me, it's like I would much rather see them produce like 3 super like high tier legendary items, then let's say 5 rare items, you know, a combination of weapon skins and player skins for each and every season, and then just give people like 2 clear ways to earn them. They're now added into the pool of loot ticks. You now get you now get a loot tick every single level. There's no level cap. Or when you buy the battle pass, it's just like a $25 pass for every season that gives you access to whatever, you know, a selection of those skins or all of those skins or something like that. Yep. Just buy the thing you want, you know? Like, I just feel like even if it was $30, people would buy it, because Fortnite does that all the time. They literally sell $30 singular skins and people buy them. Like, I feel like people would rather just have that clear-cut choice and then just have the rest of the stuff, like Overwatch does, just thrown into the rotation. If I happen to get it, I happen to get it. If not, I'll spend $30 and I get the skin that I want, you know? And I just feel like that to me almost sounds like a more financially sound business practice, where if you give people a choice, there's a good chance they're going to spend that money. Whereas right now, like, again, what are you getting out of people? I can't see anyone really spending a bunch of money on the packs. They probably just bought the battle pass, bought like the level 25 booster. And how much is that in total? What's that, like $30?
It's like $30. Yeah,
I think it was 30. Yeah.
And then like in the end, the players don't really get anything out of it. So I feel like you're really decreasing your chance of somebody doing that a second time when they spent 30 and they got nothing.
Yep. The one thing I do like about the pass, though, I do like that they scattered some Apex coins. So if you bought in like the base level, OG, I remember you were telling me this. What's the payout you can get back if you get to level 100? Do you get like most of your money back that you invested in?
You're talking in the battle pass.
Yeah, right. Because there's like those couple intervals where you get 100 coins back. What's the payout you get back if you were to reach the cap?
I believe it's 1,000.
It's 1,000
Apex coins.
Yeah, it's 1,000. I was talking with Derek about this.
And what's the buy-in for the base battle pass? How much was that?
1,000.
So yeah. I mean, I do kind of like that. I think that's a cool way, right? If you've got the time and you're planning on getting in there, I do like, you know, hey, you can get your money back on it. I think that's a cool idea. Yeah, I'd like to see them keeping it. I think that would entice some more people to be like, hey, you know, I'll buy in. I'm planning on playing it to 100, and then, you know, you get a little bit of something back on it, so that feels good.
Yeah, it's essentially just like getting your money's back, but not really. I guess it'll be interesting to see if we ever see like just how it's doing for them financially. You know, maybe it is. Maybe it's earning them a boatload of money, which means they won't change it. It doesn't matter how shitty it is. If there are actually people buying up the packs in the hopes that they'll get access to the skins they want, especially if they're level 100 and they can no longer like earn packs. So I guess we'll see where it goes with that. But how about we move on and talk about Octane? I think we've all played him quite a bit at this point, right?
Faster.
He's such a good character.
Yeah, I think Octane's a really fun addition. I think his personality and stuff, I love, you know, fits into the game. I think Respawn, even kind of all across their characters, I do love that they give them their own unique, you kind of relate to them. You think they're funny, they're charming, even just beyond like his abilities and stuff. I think just on the surface, a really fun character to play.
Yeah, he's just like,
I really liked that they added him in.
yeah, he's just to me, he's like the epitome of what I think Respawn does best, and it was interesting, like, because when he first came out, I know I was like in your chat, OP, and like a bunch of other people's chats, and there was like already a lot of people who were just really lukewarm on him. I think it was a lot of people who didn't really play a lot of Titanfall specifically, who were just like expecting, and I think this is an expectation that people have with a lot of the legends, right, is they wanted like all of these legends to be like powerhouses, they want them to do all this damage and stuff, and he's like, just like Pathfinder, he's like the antithesis of that. He's not at all about just like doing raw damage. He's just super utility focused, which is still my favorite thing about like all of the legends in the game. Even the ones that do like damage with their ultimate don't really do damage with their ultimate. Like Gibraltar, yeah, you can totally mess some people up with them, but it's more so like the scare tactics of how quickly that thing comes in that just causes everybody to like disperse. And the same thing with Bangalore. And he's just like the continuation of that theme where it's like, no, we're not going to give you someone that has a kill button. We're going to give you someone that has this jump pad, and then you can go do fun, crazy stuff with it. And like, that's why I keep playing this game. So that's why like, as much as I'll talk about the battle pass, they could just decide to like never do a battle pass again, and I wouldn't care, because the game is like so much fun that as long as they keep adding like legends with fun utility like that, and as long as I can keep doing goofy things with that, then I'll keep playing type deal.
No, and I think it's cool that I think the characters, like, even the week 1 people playing with Octane, right? You just see people do new and interesting things, and those characters have way more depth to them than what's on the surface, right? I think you see people doing interesting combinations with other legends in the game, and it's just, the more you play as them, you get a little bit more comfortable. People get a little bit more aggressive with the stim, and you kind of see those characters evolve a little bit. And dude, I totally agree. I think that's what Respawn does best. And on the surface, you're like, those people that are disappointed, give it a little bit of time, experiment with the character, try using jump pads in new and interesting ways. And, that just leads to like really exciting moments in the game. And I think that's why we all love Titanfall so much, is just, you do things in these games that you just don't do in other first person shooters. There's not too many shooters out there where you jump pad over a building with a flank maneuver on somebody, come in there, get a triple kill. Like, that stuff feels really good. And those are just fun things you can do with Octane, or, really any of the characters.
Yeah, 100%. He makes, and a lot of the characters, again, they make like the most like boring parts of battle royales not boring. And like, that's something I like about battle royales in general, is that like a singular gunfight can be enough to like make a match good for me personally. I know some people, if they lose, they hate their lives, and that's why they don't play battle royales. Butter talks about that all the time. Like, that's why he can only play so many games, because for him, once he starts losing, it's not fun. But for me, it's like, I would rather just like lose 6 matches in a row, but know that I had like 3 or 4 really good gunfights because of like the game's design, than like win every match, because that's just way more fun. Like, just those ridiculous plays. And like, I see so many people, and like, don't get me wrong, I think it's cool. People like Dizzy getting like 30, 40 kills and all this crazy nonsense. But my favorite matches have not been the ones where I've gotten high kill counts. They've been the ones where I've gotten like a stupid triple kill because I use the jump pad to flank an entire team with the Mastiff or something, Just those singular moments that make you smile and grin, that overpower like any of your best games.
Totally agree. I mean, OG, I think we've had some goofy matches, right? Even some of our most fun matches we play together are those ones where you get some crazy hot drop, you do some goofy, maneuver on somebody, come up with like a last second clutch when you're on 1 HP left, right? Those are the moments I feel like that are the most fun in this game for sure.
That perseverance, man. Yeah, like when one person survives, the other 2 are knocked, or, they even get taken out of the game and you're able to bring them back. Like, respawn beacons. I don't think they get enough love. Those things are so great, because it, like, being thirsted is what kept me out of like loving BR games. It's just so frustrating, just being out the entire game. You get fully looted and you get taken out, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, there's a second and a third and sometimes like a 4th chance with those things. And it's fun because like, it goes from the typical case of like the end of a battle royale match where you're probably going to have like squads that are down significant numbers of like teammates. But in this game, it's almost always like just assume there's a full squad, because there probably is.
Yeah.
Because of the respawn system. And like, it just means that at the end of the game, you don't really have a lot of fights where you're hunting down one single person. And when that happens, it's like a rare thing. And you totally know it because right away, it's like this real slow finish and you're just like, and then you find like a lifeline, you know, hiding under a, you know, a roof somewhere. Otherwise, like you just get the full brunt of like the chaos of like 3v3v3 or even just 3v3 almost all of the time because of that system. And like you were talking about with hot drops, as much as I'll encourage anybody who's new to like take their time, I really do think the only way to play this game is to just hot drop every single time, because it's way more fun to go like bunker 8 times in a row and then have 2 incredible finishes at bunker and then win the match than to just kind of like, you know, do the typical like drop somewhere. Especially in this game, I'd love to see them make some changes to the way the circle closes, because if you don't hot drop, chances are you're not going to see anybody until like the last 5 minutes of the game, you know, unless you chasing gunshots anyways. But
yeah, it needs to be faster. I'd love to see the ring move faster.
We were
or be more punishing.
Octane at some point, and I think that we just kind of described in general why he's really good and why all the other characters are really good. So I think that sums up our review with him. He's just a really good addition to like an already really good roster. Not to say that they couldn't use tweaks, and I think we'll save that for another episode because I know we all have our ideas on like how we'd like to see certain characters sort of ramped up. But
one other thing I think too, really quick, just even to close that, I think one of the things I'm impressed about was we all played the game month 1, you know, grinding all these characters, trying to learn their abilities, and then you know they introduced this new character Octane into the mix, and it's like, okay, is this going to totally shake anything up? And I don't know if it's that respawn magic or whatever it is, but like Octane just blends right in, right? Doesn't break any characters, it doesn't introduce anything that's like this character is now worthless, right? And that makes me optimistic for future characters too, that just Respawn feels like they take their time, they do their balancing updates, right? And they're confident these characters are coming in are going to, you know, fit into their universe. It didn't feel like the game significantly changed when they bring in this new legend, which is, I think, makes me optimistic.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like they're just really good at making soft counter characters, you know, and even like to some extent, they're not even like soft counters. They're kind of just like, you know, and that's why like all the health bars and stuff are the same. It's just like everybody has their own abilities. It's like a hero shooter, but it's so not a hero shooter.
Yeah.
It's really more just like a traditional class-based shooter, which is what hero shooters really are at the end of the day, I guess. But maybe we finally reached a point where there's a clear distinction between like the class-based shooters that existed way back when, you know, even like Battlefield, that's an old school class-based shooter. Team Fortress, like OG Team Fortress 2, got a little bit more into the countery realm, but then like a game like Wolfenstein back in the day, just class-based games where it was like, okay, this is the character, this is their loadout, they're not better than any other character, they're just different, they have their own utilities, and that's like totally this game. So I feel like as long as they can keep adding characters that do that, that never become like a hard counter or require, even like Lifeline, right? I feel like the only reason she was ever like needed for a while was because how abusive her care package was, but then they removed level 4s, and suddenly it was kind of just like, okay, it's really not that bad anymore. She's like a good teammate to have, but I never once feel like if someone doesn't play Lifeline, we're at like a huge disadvantage, you know?
Yep. But I love, you know, they make you think a little bit like who's in your squad playing off each other. It does have that, you know, it's not Overwatch. It's not like a hero shooter, but you know, you got to be cognizant about who your teammates are, what their abilities are. And, you know, it's cool to just think about, you know, I'm playing with OG, you know, what's he going to be doing, learning what his strengths, his weaknesses are, and then using your character to play off of them in interesting ways, you know, creates a lot of depth in the game, which is cool.
Yeah, it gives you a different like team play style, you know? You not only do you have your own like personal play style swap when you go from a character like Octane to Lifeline or, you know, any of their characters, but now you have like a different team cohesion, which means your team can play differently. If one person's playing Pathfinder or Octane, suddenly your team can make flanks and pushes that they couldn't make before. So maybe they play a little bit more aggressive. You know, maybe they make pushes they wouldn't normally make because they know they've got a disengage. You know, that happens with Pathfinder all the time. It's like, all right, we probably shouldn't run into the middle of this, but I'll put a zip line down. So let's just push in, and then if we can bail out, we'll bail out with the zip line, you know, like.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's definitely really exciting. So let's talk a little bit about the rest of Season 1. You know, I think it's obvious, L-Star. But what do you think the chances of us seeing another legend are before Season 1 wraps up?
I would love to see another, personally. I feel like, you know, the more characters, the better at this point. Like I know a lot of people I think a lot of people would prefer it just kind of like slow rollouts and stuff. But I mean, I'm all for as many characters as possible. The more combinations, the better. The more that the more you can experiment with different like team chemistry, because team chemistry is everything in this game.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
like as long as they're ready, like release
Yeah.
it. I feel like one of the Ubisoft directors at Rainbow Six Siege, like a year ago, when the game really started getting a lot of traction, said like we're just gonna keep adding operators like forever, basically. And I think one of his like numbers was like, if we hit 100 operators, then okay, and like they're up there now. They're getting pretty close.
Right.
And and people are still playing the game, and I think a big part of it is constantly giving people, like you said, not just new characters to experiment with, but then suddenly you have multiplications for the team compositions you can put together. And this is a game that I think could survive like entirely on its really great core gameplay, and then the constant addition of new character that just adds to the gameplay experience. And if this game at one point had 50 to 100 legends, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yep, and I think you're right. Like that kind of goes into their system of they're not just adding hard counters to everybody. They're introducing these legends that can stand alone, have fun abilities, but the core gameplay is balanced, that you can play whoever you want and still have a fair chance to win. I think that'll go a long way in making sure, right, as they add these legends, that they're not just completely shifting the balance of these games. But yeah, I'm with OG. I think especially in the age of these live service games, right? There's so much competition. You see Fortnite, taking some of the Apex's best ideas and implementing a similar idea. I think I've started to see Treyarch really, stepping up with Call of Duty. They released that Cops and Robbers mode. They've got this new Alcatraz map. They're doing a lot of things too. And I think, that competition in that sense is really good. But I mean, a lot of these AAA studios now are competing for your time and your money on some of these things. So I think at some point there's going to be, some pressure on Respawn to make sure that they're keeping up, because I know when they were talking about releasing this game, right, they definitely pitched it as a live service game that's going to be, you're going to see a different side of Respawn than, for example, the way they had in a roadmap for Titanfall 2. So I'm curious to see, 3 months is a short time in some sense, but in like the live service era, that is a long time. And so I'm hoping that, middle of the season towards the end, we get a couple new surprises.
Yeah. And just to touch on like the new characters again, because Candle's made a good point. He's just kind of saying how he thinks it could get hard for them to keep the game balanced without creating some sort of a meta the more they release. But I think also by not having hard counters in this game, they have a lot more freedom with the way they can build out like utility focused characters. Because when you have a game like Overwatch that's very focused on hard and soft counters, almost every character is created in some way intentionally to shift the meta, or to alter the current meta, to do something essentially to like counter whatever is happening right now. And I think that's actually a problem that Overwatch has, because the game has like changed so much over the years, because I think it's just become harder and harder for them to add things, because everything is like a new hard counter, a new soft counter. So I think by ensuring that like they don't ever have to make a character that has like a straight up damage focused ability, or like a heavy healing focused ability, they can just keep making like really interesting utility things. And I could see a lot of stuff happening with the things that are already in the game. For example, the doors. Like, doors are such a huge mind game. So what happens when you create a character that all of a sudden can maybe throw latches on doors to seal them? So you don't have to stand in front of a door anymore to lock it down for 2 melee strikes. You throw a little latch on it, then you can go over, and now you've got like a whole new layer to the mind game you can play. Yes, they can still kick down the door, but you don't got to stand there to hold it anymore. Like, I could just see him doing so much fun stuff with that.
And I think what's going to be an interesting layer too, and I know Respawn hasn't necessarily come out and confirmed, but I think, the way that they're going to evolve their map or release other maps, I think is going to be a really great refresher for even the characters that right? You get into a habit with Pathfinder. I love my routes. I know my looting route. I know exactly where I place my zip lines because I know the best ways to traverse the map. Say they introduce a brand new map to the game, and it's like that's going to shake all that up again, because you're going to find new and interesting ways to use some of those characters that you thought you had mastered. But, these new terrains and these new environments and new buildings and, new vantage points that you like to go to, it's going to, I think, also go a long way, even just beyond just new legends all the time.
I think that's to me is like their game changing like future, right? Because like, yes, we've got like, actually, I mean, really the only other battle royale that's doing a lot of maps is PUBG. And the thing about PUBG is it's a very 2D, like, flat experience. And that's okay. It works for PUBG. But you look at just King's Canyon in this game, and it is, like, probably one of the best battle royale maps, like, ever made, because it works really well with, like, what Apex Legends is, but it has so much verticality, and there's not a lot of, like, big open spaces. It's just the map is, like, super well designed. So if they could just actually start, not necessarily pumping out new maps, not only does that create a really great entry point for new players, because new players are going to have to jump into this game, and not only do they have to deal with the fact that the people playing know the characters, they know the legends, they know how to play the game, they also know the map like the back of their hand. So when you introduce a new map with a new season, that's like a big, like, hey, this is the time. You've never played Apex Legends. No one knows this map yet. So you've got at least 50% less of a struggle now. Like, come on in, you know. And that's,
and I hope they keep King's Canyon around too. I hope they don't go the route of just like, hey, new level, you know, we're gonna retire this one or vault it for a little bit. It'd be nice to put, you know, in PUBG style, doing like some sort of a rotation. You know, I'm sure they can come up with some clever ways. You know, do you want to queue for just the new map? Do you want to put them both in there? But it would be cool to get like, you know, you think a year down the road and it's like, oh, there's multiple maps in this game. You know, they're all really good. It doesn't feel stale because you're getting a new experience every time you queue up. You know, I think that would be pretty sweet.
Yeah, I mean, with the player base they have too, and I think it's important for them to acknowledge that, right? Is so many times PUBG did this. PUBG was like, oh, we've got like millions of players, and then they added a new map, and for whatever reason, they wouldn't let people just like queue for that map. And I was like, you're not gonna split your player base like to the point where no one's able to match make. Like, when you get to the point where there's 5 or 6 maps, I understand that. Maybe at that point you run the new map as a featured map for a month, and then you just throw them all into a big old rotation. Because I actually do really love the idea of like a big rotation of maps, like not really knowing what map we're gonna get. And then, you know, if there's 4 maps, that means that, like, you know, a decent chunk of a battle royale session, you're gonna play like, you know, one of each map and not really have that many repeats in, like, you know, a 2-hour session, 3-hour session or whatever. And that would be really cool. But yeah, early on, I agree. Like, just let us.
And even if you are grinding, right? Even if you are like grinding it, you know, you're getting different maps. We've gotten to the point where you've got, you know, we've got a few new legends in there. You've got a couple different maps, or that creates like a fun layer, I think, of depth when, you know, you're queuing up. Hey, this is the map we're on. You know, what's the team comp we want to go in with? You know, what's our good strategy for this map? You know, I think it'll get people thinking a little bit more too, even just in your pregame setup as, you know, how do we want to tackle this?
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll see. They've been kind of quiet, but yeah, we'll see where the next 2 months go. Either way, I'm like having a ridiculously good time with the game, and I just hope. I mean, I don't have to hope. I'm pretty sure this is the direction they're going to keep going, right? Like, where Fortnite is, I've talked about this, the game that just like throws everything under the sun, everything in, you know, including the kitchen sink, to like bring people back. I just want this to continue to be the game that's just like, if you leave because you're not having fun anymore, fine, but we're not gonna like put a purple unicorn that shoots rainbows out of its ass just to bring you back. Like, if you enjoy the game, great, we'll give you like new gameplay when we're ready, and keep rocking and rolling with that. But let's say we talk about some of the other stuff we've been playing. There's like a ridiculous amount of games that released in the last few months. We've all been jamming on a bit of everything.
Gives me anxiety. There's too many games I want to play. There's not enough time.
There really is. There's a reason I put my PlayStation 4 downstairs. It's just because I knew it would lessen the choices I have, because I'm probably not going to go downstairs to play if I'm in my office. So I'm like, if I leave it down there, and I'll only really play it on holidays, and I won't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I feel that.
But quick rundown of what we've all been playing, then we're going to kind of just talk about what we've been playing a little bit. I actually had Secure on here, but then today I started playing Outward, which I don't know if you guys seen that. So it's sort of like a RPG, open world, like survival RPG made by a really small dev team.
Yes,
that's really cool, actually. I know you've been playing. You just finished up Uncharted Lost Legacy, and OP...
I'm trying to get through my backlog. I'm trying to get to those games that are manageable, right? So you're putting in all this time in Apex, right? Loving that, but I'm trying to find those games. It's like, give me a week, give me a weekend, give me 2 weeks, can knock out some of these games I've been putting off for a little while.
Yeah, that was like that whole week that I took off. I got sick. I was like, oh, I'm gonna play all these games. I had just such a headache the whole time. I just watched Game of Thrones the entire time. OP, you've been playing the Division 2, and what else did you say you've been jamming on?
Been playing Division 2 and Borderlands Remastered, 2 looter shooters at once.
You've been going,
dude. Oh man, you are a hero.
It's a lot of loot. So where are you at in Division 2 now? Because I'm like, when did you start playing that? I didn't even know. I knew you were like checking out, but I didn't know you actually started playing
Yeah, I've been
heavily.
like in and out of there, you know, a couple hours a day. I'm like World Tier 3 or something like that.
Okay, so you're pretty close then. A couple tiers away.
Loving
only.
it though. Really
OG,
cool.
you've been running that game solo. You've been squatting.
A lot of solo time. I have a friend that I join up with now and again, but man, it's really fun. It's fun either way, but it's really punishing solo.
Yeah,
Die.
I was just gonna ask you, dude. Solo, man. Oof, it's really rough. I've been playing with a group of like a full group. So then the few times where I was like, oh, I'm gonna hop on, or maybe I'll play it for stream, and then I solo and I just like get annihilated. I'm just like, oh my god, dude, this is rough. This is rough alone playing some of these missions.
Yeah, they're tough. You just get like overwhelmed.
I've really been enjoying the game. I think like gameplay wise, it's phenomenal. The only problem I've been having with it is like, because we hit World Tier 4 the night before World Tier 5 released with the new thing. So then the next day we go and we run 5, and then I'm just like, see, but now I'm back at that problem again where it's like I've got gear score on all of my gear, and I'm like, okay, I want to make a build, but also I might as well just max out gear score. And that's been like the entire end game experience with the Division 2, and I kind of hate it because all I've wanted to do is start making builds. And because I only play like a couple hours a week, I can't, like, I could make a build, but then the gear score is like, you know, useless in the next 15 minutes. I mean, you just pump through gear score when you're in those world tiers so fast that there's not, like, I could sit down, make a build, and then carry the talents over. And I guess that in general just got me thinking a lot about like these loot shooters that do all of this like gear score stuff. A part of me is just like, man, maybe it would just all be better if it was just level based and there wasn't like some ridiculous gear score that you had to constantly like chase after.
Did you guys both play
Division about it?
Yeah.
How would you say, like, because I haven't reached the end game yet. I'm even a slower grind than both of you guys. How would you say that it, you know, compares to, like, you know, once you get to the end, right, you beat all your story missions, you go through, you know, your first playthrough. How would you say that, you know, Division 2 compares to what happens in the first game?
I mean, it's way better from a gameplay perspective, in my opinion. Like, just the armor system is much smarter. You don't have to deal with all of the nonsense that comes with how do I want to say this? Totally lost my train of thought. OP, go ahead and say what you're gonna say. I literally whatever I was gonna say.
It's just like there's so much more to do. You know, like I played Division 1 launch as well, and just didn't feel like there was that much to do once I had finished all the missions. It was just like, you know, just a little bit here and there, random trophy stuff, because I like trophy hunting. And the Division 2, I mean, there's so much stuff that's just unlocked and stuff to do once you and world tiers weren't there with Division 1 launch either.
Right, yeah.
So it's just like it's a new grind. It's like, oh man, there's a lot in the hunters, getting up the hunters, their masks, and
you mess around in the dark zone at all once you get through, or do you not venture into there?
I haven't dabbled in it. There's missions, but
yeah, we played a little bit of dark zone. We like went in there and did some.
I'm not getting good vibes from you guys on dark
things. It's just
do you
the
like
problem
the
is that
zone?
you just can't really spend time in it if you want to get to max gear score. Like, that's the problem I have with tier 1, 2, 3, and 4. Like, I love the game, and I think the gameplay is really good. The armor system is what I was trying to say is a replacement for the idea of bullet sponges. It's super smart. The missions, like, just playing through the campaign alone is like, there are amazing set pieces. Like, all of the fights, and there's an underground bunker, right, that you go to that was like supposed to be used by the president. And it's like the most insane Fallout shelter ever. Like, it's so fleshed out. There's so much detail in the world design. Like, I couldn't give two shits about the story because they're not saying anything with it anyway. But the set pieces, man, you could just pretend. And I kept saying this when we were playing it. I was like, they should have just made this a National Treasure game. This could have been National Treasure 3. And it would have worked because you're like picking up the Bill of Rights and stuff, and you get the Declaration of Independence. I was like, this would have been the best movie video game ever, dude. There's like entire sections of the game that are like out of a Bond film. They're so over the top. But when you hit,
I would say that I'm like super impressed. Yeah, even just to build off that, like the world in this game, even just, you know, I'm not through even just like the first, you know, set of missions yet, but man, all the environments are insane. The locations are super fun. I can't wait to do the next, you know, story mission. Just wondering, you know, what kind of crazy place is going to take me. You know, I find myself going to these museums and stopping and like staring at the exhibits and like, oh, you can actually read this and learn something. Like, this is crazy how much detail went into that world. It's pretty impressive, I think.
Yeah,
I was absolutely blown away by the Space Museum.
I was just gonna say, they've made a place like where you enjoy like spending time in those places. The Space Museum is definitely a really good example of that. It's just, that's the one that reminds me of like a straight up Bond film. You're like,
Yeah.
you're moving this thing and like ripping the old like computer chip out of it and stuff to reuse it for the Division tech stuff. Yeah, there's so much of that is just really phenomenal.
And I just think that, you know, Washington D.C. lends itself to just have more diverse stuff like that. I mean, I have no gripes with New York. Was super fun in the first game, and it was a really great effort to come out, and like that world was super detailed. But you know, New York is pretty grid based at the end of the day. So having, you know, something like Washington D.C. that's got a little bit more diversity in its geography and its environments and these museums and stuff, I mean, seems to be a great setting for this game.
Yeah, I think it's clear that it like really freed them up to just to utilize, like you said, to utilize the landscape to do way more interesting things. And they kept like the underground stuff, which I like too. And they just, you know, there's just so much more going on with it. That was probably some of my favorite stuff in the first game, was like the little bits of underground. It's just way more fleshed out. It's a really good game. The end game is just kind of messy in my opinion, and I hate like having to chase like tiny gear score
Chase a number
just to make builds when I just want to be making builds because the game like clearly giving you the tools to do that. But so how about Uncharted Lost Legacy count? You finished that up entirely. Have you finished all the other Uncharteds? You played like all through 4 and all that stuff, or?
I have. So I'm a huge Naughty Dog fan. I think in terms of when I think about, you know, the single player games I like to get into, I put them up on a level, you know, as much as I respect the work that Respawn does. Some of the Uncharted games are my favorite. I played through 4, you know, when it launched. I don't know why, for whatever reason, I just had Lost Legacy on my backlog. It was probably something, you know, when it came out, there's a couple different games. I just never circled back to it. But man, those are some crazy single player games that just, sometimes I'm, you know, in disbelief of like what I'm watching. They're over the top ridiculous. I mean, you're not playing that game like for ultra realism. You're watching, you know, an Indiana Jones like hyper action movie shooter. It's crazy, but yeah, really, really enjoyed that game. Have you guys got to play through any of those?
Yeah, so I'm playing 4 right now. And speaking of what you're saying, over the top, I was just in, you know, like in 4, you get like the Jeep and everything, and you're kind of like in the open world at one point. And so I'm just like, you know, going about my day as Nathan Drake. I grab my, you know, my tow thing off the front of my truck, my winch. I go wrap it around a tree to get up the top of this hill. And there's like also like a rock kind of in the way. I'm like, that looks a little sketchy. I'll walk around this, bring it back down, get in the Jeep, start driving up. Next thing you know, the rock like slides down. The whole Jeep slides off the side of the cliff. And so then I'm hanging off the cliff, like climbing back up Jeep, and I'm just like, yep, this is why you play.
And they do an amazing job of like transitioning those scenes to just making them natural. You think you're just playing the game, something happens, and it's like Naughty Dog has this amazing ability that they knew you were going to go down this path, and this dynamic event happens, doesn't cut away from your gameplay, but just like the camera angle changes, you get a dramatic view. All these events are happening, and it just seamlessly blends right into like what you were doing. They don't have to do a crazy camera cut to like a predefined cutscene in most cases. You know, you're living these cutscenes, which I think is one of the coolest things that Naughty Dog does.
Yeah, their open world with Lost Legacy in 4 is like, it's like God of War for me. Like God of War, the recent God of War is such like a great example of good open world design, because while it is open, the game also does a lot to kind of like, you know, push you, like you're saying, push you down little corridors so you can experience something. And it does it in a way that's so natural that you never once feel like you transition from an open world into just like some, you know, crazy corridor shooter. It's just like, well, eventually the player's going to come this way because we let them explore, but this is where they need to go. And then we'll give them like some sort of an obstacle to face. Like they got to get up this muddy hill, and we'll use that as that perfect transition point. They really do. They feel like Indiana Jones big old adventure games.
And the characters just have like perfect dialogue too. You know what I mean? They're like self-aware of what you're doing in the game, which is always, I think, like the coolest thing. You know, you're doing something stupid, you think you're goofing around, and then your character has this line of dialogue about what you're doing, and you're like, damn it, Naughty Dog, how'd you know I was going to do that? Like, it always blows my mind. It's like, but they knew, you know, they knew you were going to go over there, you're going to mess with that thing, and then the characters react to that, and I think that's super cool.
Yeah, there's always like a well, you're having like that epiphany as the player, like, you know, Nathan Drake is having that epiphany, or you're driving like an idiot And then your brother is just like, Jesus, Nathan.
Yeah.
You know, like
I
it
know, and
really
it's like
does.
I just love that. It just feels so good. Yeah, it's that moment. You're exactly right. It's like you're having an epiphany as a player, and then the stinking character has that same epiphany right as
It's
you're
like,
doing it. And you think that
yes.
you're like outsmarting somebody, and it's like, nope, Naughty Dog knew you were going to go down that path, and they're very aware that, you know, to feed you dialogue or some sort of action your character is doing to go right alongside the way you're feeling as a player.
Yeah, it's a riot. Those games are they're so good, man. I hope that they get a chance to. I know they kind of like finished up the story. I would just like to see Naughty Dog continue to do like adventure games like that, because I feel like in the
Yeah,
realm of like single player stuff, they just nail like the raw adventure vibe, you know, like the stuff that you always wanted out of, you know, like when you played Tomb Raider as a kid and like some of the old Indiana Jones games on N64, you know, they were just good at kind of making you feel like you went on this grand journey. And then Uncharted came out and was like, oh, we're going to like do that in like full 3D and have like the schmarminess and like the different locations. And you're in this, you know, exotic city and then you're in a car chase. Like, I just want more of
and I would
that,
say,
even if it's a different character.
yeah, absolutely. And I would say to the people, right, that maybe, hey, I've never really played the Uncharted game. It's a little bit intimidating. And I have the same thing, right? There are 4 games in and a standalone side expansion. You know, I think pretty much any of those games, if you wanted to start at 4 or you wanted to play this, I mean, there's a little bit of backstory there, but I think any of those games, you can jump in independently. I think Naughty Dog, right, they're great storytellers. They can bring you up to speed with what's going on. The plots in those games are self-contained. So, you know, you might have a little bit of history, like you recognize a character from the first games, but you know, you don't need to be intimidated that, you know, I can't play Lost Legacy because I haven't played Uncharted 1. You know, I don't think you need to have that preconception before jumping in.
Yeah, I think Legacy is actually a perfect game. It's not like super long, but it's a nice taste of like what you